testifying to today, so that needs to be addressed prior to his testimony.
Thank you. Are you ready to call your witness?
I am, Your Honor.
Thank you. Bring the jury in, please. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We resume today with a state witness. And this is
If I may, Your
Detective
Honor.
Pearson, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Sergeant Jamie Pearson. May I approach the clerk, Your Honor? May I approach the clerk? Thank you.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Sergeant Jamie Pearson, JAMIE PEARSTON.
Sergeant, you
your-
may be seated.
Affiliation?
Connecticut State Police, Western District, Major Crime.
Thank you.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good.
You currently work with the state police?
Yes.
And your current rank, please?
Sergeant.
How long have you been a sergeant with the Connecticut State Police?
Approximately 2 years.
Thank you. Could you please describe some of your training and experience with the state police?
Yes, I was hired in 2008. At the time, I attended the State Police Academy. I have received extensive training throughout the course of the academy, as well as outside institutions, to include interview, crime scene processing, scene mapping, photography, evidence collection, blood pattern analysis, various other things.
Are you with a particular division or department within the Connecticut State Police?
Yes, Western District Major Crime.
And do you specialize in any, I guess, a specific part of major crimes?
Yes, I'm currently the supervisor of the crime scene van.
When you say crime scene van, can you just briefly explain what that is?
Yes, each district is assigned a van unit, which is comprised of detectives that is responsible for processing crime scenes, to include scene documentation, photography and such, as well as analysis, interpretation.
And you are currently the sergeant for Western District?
Yes.
In 2019, what was your role?
I was a detective within the same crime scene van unit.
How long have you been working in the van unit total?
I began in 2018 as a detective and then assumed command upon promotion.
And which was when?
2021.
Thank you. I'm going to draw your attention specifically back to that May 2019 timeframe. Did you have an occasion to respond to 69 Wells Lane in New Canaan?
Yes.
Do you recall when you responded?
I responded on the 27th.
Was that the first time that you responded there?
It was.
Okay, so you did not go on the 24th or 25th?
No.
What was your, or why did you respond there?
I was tasked with producing a scene map as the continuation of scene processing was extended to the 27th.
Was anyone from New Canaan Police Department on scene when you arrived?
Yes, there was a marked cruiser securing the scene.
And who else from the Connecticut State Police was on scene with you?
Myself, Lieutenant Colonel Davison, Detective Riley, Detective Hazen, Detective McGavin. I believe that was it.
And you mentioned a sketch map. Is that what could you just explain what that is?
Yes, we take measurements from the scene to produce a map which would depict spaces, whether it's size of a building or the room, the crime scene in question, as well as evidence in its relation to the scene.
In this case, what did you mean by scene?
I was tasked with mapping the garage of 69 Wells Lane.
What's the purpose of a sketch map?
We want to memorialize the location of evidence, as well as other items. It could be furniture or things of interest, things of value.
And you mentioned a few names of individuals who were with you. In the course of going through the garage, or what were their assignments?
Lieutenant Colonel Davison was called in to assist with the blood pattern analysis. Sergeant McGavin was the scene officer, so he produced a scene report. Detective Riley was responsible for evidence collection, and Detective Hazen took photographs.
And you mentioned the blood pattern analysis. What is that?
It's when the blood presented is analyzed and interpreted.
Are you trained in blood pattern analysis?
Yes.
Is that in any way connected to reconstruction of a crime scene?
I am not trained to the same level as others. I have a basic understanding and knowledge of blood stain.
You did not conduct the blood pattern analysis in this case, did you?
I did not.
Okay, who did?
Lieutenant Colonel Davison.
Now, have you worked with Lieutenant Colonel Davison previously?
Yes.
About how often?
I began on patrol in 2008 with, at the time, Trooper Davison, but I've known him throughout my entire career. And when I joined Major Crime in 2013, he was in the unit and we worked together throughout that tenure.
Now, in the course of creating a sketch map, are there certain steps you take?
Yes.
Could you just walk through some of those steps that you do?
Once the items are items of evidentiary value, I should say, once they are identified, I produce field notes where I am measuring them in to the scene and memorializing it in a note pattern. I then take the notes and put it into a report and produce a actual map utilizing Easy Street Draw, which is the program.
What types of tools do you use when you create the sketch map?
Various things. In this case, I used a laser distance measurer as well as a steel measuring tape.
Like Your Honor states 8, I believe, is a full exhibit, no objection?
That's correct, no objection.
They say it will be admitted as a full exhibit.
I may just have 1 minute to sign in. Your Honor. May I inquire, Your Honor, and of the clerk, if the televisions are on?
No.
May I just have a moment, Your Honor?
They're on there.
No. First. Yes, Your Honor. Sergeant Pearson, if you can please take a look at what is conveyed on the screen behind you? And if I may, this is states 8, picture 1, which is actually a PDF. And Your Honor, I will say this is with respect to Sergeant Pearson, I have to alternate between PDFs and photographs, so it might not go as smoothly as I hope. With respect to what's behind you, Sergeant, if you can, do you recognize that?
Yes,
What is it?
that is the first map of 8, which is an overall of the garage located at 69 Wells Lane.
Now, you talked a little bit about taking measurements and utilizing a ruler and a tape measure, I guess. Is that a way to
Yes.
say it? Thank you. Can you walk us through, perhaps explain how you use those tools to create this map?
Yes, in this case, I use a rectangular coordinate method, which is the method where you have 2 steel tapes on the ground in this instance, and they intersect at a right angle to determine a distance from 2 known points. In this case, it was the footings of the poured cement garage floor.
Would you mind, please, Your Honor, may I ask her to go up to the screen point? Thank you. Sergeant Pearson, can you please head on up? When you say the footings, what do you mean?
Around the perimeter, there's approximately 3¼ inches of cement that protrudes to the interior of the sheetrock walls.
And do you have a marking next to that and you have an arrow directing it? This is in the, I guess, the bottom middle of the PDF. And a number on the top says 3.25. What does that mean?
That's the approximate measurement of that protrusion of cement.
Could you please explain on the, I guess, working your way from left to right, if you could just explain some of the markings. You have A, B, C. What is that?
So these were evidentiary zones that allowed us to segment the garage into a more workable space. And then I was able to take measurements from each evidentiary zone and elaborate or blow it up into a larger map.
With respect to the, I guess, zone G, why is that in the middle, or why is that depicted like that?
So G contained a vehicle at the time of processing, and we mapped G with the Range Rover in place as found by detectives.
And D, E, F?
Same as A, B, and C, it was in the southernmost garage bay. It was split into 3 evidentiary zones.
On the upper right side, or I'm sorry, not even upper right side, but on the right side, there is an arrow that has a number. I think it's 21, starting with 21. Can you just explain what that is?
Yep, so this is the interior dimension from wall to wall, which would be east-west in a measure.
Did you measure from, I guess it would be north-south as well?
I did, so from north to south, footing to footing, the interior measurement was approximately 33 feet and 11 inches.
Now, you also have writing on the left-hand side, and I'm putting my cursor on it over here. What does this mean?
This is part of our map legend, which is generally included in every map that we produce, and it includes the case number, the date, the type of case, the location, my name and signature, as well as the scale, north arrow, and whether or not it's one of the series.
Now, there's a marking right in, I guess, grid B that states area of convergence. What is that?
Area of convergence was determined on scene through measurements of the blood stains found relevant to this investigation. It's where a line is drawn through the long axis of each blood stain, and where those lines intersect in a 2-dimensional plane is what's called the area of convergence.
Did you determine the area of convergence in this case?
I did not.
Who did?
Lieutenant Colonel Davidson.
Is the area depicted on the map conveyed at the area B where it says area of convergence? Is that documented where that area was determined to be?
Yes, approximately.
Okay. And up here on G, on the, I guess, top middle, what is that supposedly supposed to depict?
That was two wooden stairs that left the garage floor and entered a entry door into a mudroom of the home.
You can have a seat, Sergeant Pearson. Did you map any other part of the garage? Or, I'm sorry, not the garage, the residence?
I did not.
On states 8, picture 2. Sergeant Pearson, if you can just take a look behind you. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes,
What is it?
that is the northernmost garage bay of 69 Wells Lane.
And I also see an A, B, C. What are those markings?
Those correspond with the evidentiary zones that we just saw in the map in that left or northernmost bay.
Did you conduct this, by the way, did you put the yellow marking tape down?
I did not.
Okay, who did?
Lieutenant Colonel Davison.
Was that done before any seizing of exhibits or documentation of any exhibits that were found in the garage?
On the 27th, yes.
And I'm going to draw your attention to right behind you. Again, Sergeant Pearson, do you recognize what's depicted on the screen? This is states 8, picture 3.
Yes.
What is it?
This is a blowout of evidentiary zone A in that northern garage bay.
Would you mind also getting back up and pointing to a few things? I apologize. Thank you. Okay. On the, I guess, right middle, there are these dots with a letter and number, A18, A17, A16. What are those supposed to represent?
So items that are listed not as an exhibit. So for example, 18, 17, and 16, as well as 15, 14, 13, and 12. Those are items that were used for blood pattern analysis. Not necessarily exhibits unless it states next to it.
So with respect to A18, and then there's a parentheses, exhibit number 41, parentheses, close parentheses, what does that mean?
That is a piece of evidence, so seized as exhibit 41, but also utilized in the bloodstain pattern analysis.
So with respect to any documentation on your map that has a letter and number, it is only the ones, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, that have the exhibit next to it that were seized as exhibits in this case.
Yes,
And the others were used for reconstruction.
analysis, yes.
Analysis.
And the A corresponds to the evidentiary zone.
I may see, I'm going to do states 3, photograph 4. And if I can, do you recognize what's depicted on that photograph?
Yes,
What is depicted on that photograph?
this is evidentiary zone A.
Now, when something is seized as an exhibit, is it set as you delineated on your map? Or is there a corresponding, I guess, a sticky or marker tag or placard that is used on that to document it on the scene?
Yes, so typically if it is an item of evidentiary value, it is either noted by a yellow evidence placard. It could be a sticky scale, which has the exhibit number on it. It could be an arrow, something that could later be photographed and then backed in to the scene.
States 8, picture 5. Sergeant Pearson, can you please explain what's depicted on states 8, picture 5?
This is evidentiary zone B, also in the northernmost bay of 69 Wells Lane.
And on the left-hand side, there are those numbers, B11, B10, and B9. Is that similar to what you just testified for in A?
It is. So again, items used for analysis within the B evidentiary zone are assigned B and a numeric. If it was used as evidence, we included the exhibit number.
Now,
adjacent.
there are exhibit numbers here, if you can, that have a box or square, I should say, as opposed to a circle and no letter enumeration. It just says exhibit 43. Do you see where I'm pointing out?
Yes.
Can you explain that for me?
This is an item that was seized from evidentiary zone B, however, not utilized for blood stain pattern analysis.
And does your map on B also show the area of convergence designated
Yes.
by Mark Davidson?
Yes,
Thank
on
you.
the right-hand side of the map.
Page 8, picture 6. What does this depict?
This would be evidentiary zone B with exhibit 42.
And picture 7?
Evidentiary zone B with exhibits 42, 43, and various sticky scales that I referred to earlier.
And you pointed to the bottom right as an example. Is that an example of what you were saying designated as a exhibit or a marking that was used for reconstruction? Here,
These may have been, I can't quite see.
I can scroll up.
Yes, so that's an exhibit. It looks like, I can't tell. if
It's a little blurry because
Yeah,
it's
58 or
zoomed in,
38, but
but if I can refer you back to your garage B map, would the stickies that you're pointing to, would they correspond with you're pointing to B3, B4, B5?
yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna show you states 8, picture 8. Briefly, if you can explain, please, what's depicted in that photograph?
Yeah, this is evidentiary zone C with items for analysis and exhibits of 69 Wells Lane.
The 9 on the bottom, down here, I am putting my cursor over it. Do you see that?
Yes,
Can you explain what that is?
that is a 9-foot wide garage door, overhead garage door, traditional garage door.
And it's the 3 on the left-hand side.
That is a 3-foot window.
And states 8, picture 9. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
What is it?
this is the northernmost garage bay, evidentiary zones A, B, and C.
And the zone marked with C, is that corresponding with your map?
Yes,
I'm going to show you states 8, picture 10. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
yes.
What is it?
Evidentiary zones D, E, and F in the southernmost garage bay.
Did you map those sizes as well?
I did.
Okay, states 8, picture 10. Do you recognize what's depicted on the screen?
Yes.
What is it, please?
Evidentiary zone D with the relevant exhibits seized.
States 8, picture 11. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
What is it?
Evidentiary zone D.
Now, on picture 11, states 8, actually going to zoom in a little bit. There are these, I guess, white, backwards L-shaped things. If you can just explain what those are.
That is a scale typically used in photography to photo evidence and have a standardized scale in the photo.
States 8, picture 12. Do you recognize this photograph, please?
Yes.
What is it?
Evidentiary zone E.
And states 8, picture 13. Could you please explain what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes, it's a photo of evidentiary zone E.
States 8, picture 14. Same question, Sergeant, if you can.
Evidentiary zone F.
Now, did you, in the course of creating these maps, document every single thing that was seen in the photographs, the preceding photographs that I showed you?
No, I documented and measured in items of evidentiary value or items utilized for blood stain pattern analysis.
With respect to some of the markings that are, well, strike that if I can, states 8, picture 15. Do you recognize what's depicted here?
Evidentiary zone F.
Now, with respect to items that are seen in this photograph, is every single thing that has either a white L-shaped ruler or other marking contained in your map states 8, picture 14. I'm going to put that up again. Is it, if you put the two side by side, it may take me a while and I might break my computer if I attempt to do that, but is everything contained in that photograph contained in your map?
No.
Okay. Oh, why is that?
The items, if we refer back to the photo, there's items nearest the trash can that have the large L scales. We just discussed those appear to be transfer type stains, but not seized as evidence or utilized in blood stain pattern analysis.
So with respect to some of those transfer type stains or markings in the garage, did you document those in your sketch map?
No.
Were those documented otherwise?
In photography, yes.
States 16, I'm sorry, it states 8, picture 16. Show you picture 16. Do you recognize what's depicted on the screen?
Yes, this is evidentiary zone G.
With respect to exhibit 67, is that related to a actual exhibit?
It is not. Originally, an item was designated as exhibit 67 and subsequently photographed and mapped in. And it was later learned that it had been relocated and not seized as an exhibit. Therefore, I submitted an additional addendum map to correct that.
With respect to exhibit 67, do you know where exhibit 67, was there actually something that was delineated 67? Should say that.
On this map?
No.
Yes, so 67 was seized from the northern garage door, the interior side of the garage door.
And states 8, picture 17. What does this depict?
This is the vehicle that was located in evidentiary zone G with, it looks like several exhibits on the side as well as exhibit 44.
And when you conducted your analysis with respect to creating the map, the vehicle was in place?
Yes.
Okay, you can have a seat, Sergeant. Thank you. With respect to any of the evidence that was collected on 69 wells or in the garage, did you have anything to do with the evidence collection process?
No.
With respect to the Land Rover or Range Rover, actually, that you see on the screen behind you, did you have anything that day or anything to do with the evidence collection process with the Range Rover?
No.
Okay. With respect to a Chevy Suburban, are you aware there's a Chevy Suburban related to this case?
Yes.
Were you involved in the processing of that item?
Yes.
What day were you involved in that?
We traveled to New Canaan Police Department that following day, so the 28th.
And what was your assignment with respect to the Chevy Suburban?
I took the inventory of the Suburban.
By inventory, what do you mean?
We document the vehicle as found by Western District Major Crime detectives, and we inventory the items seized as well as the condition of the vehicle and some like mileage, damage, things like that.
Would that also include any blood spatter or anything that is I guess, evidence processing? I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but would it include it? You can understand the question.
So that day we did process the vehicle fully, but the inventory does not contain evidence in that report.
What is the purpose of doing an inventory report?
We want to document everything that was found in the vehicles so far as like personal belongings, or I mentioned damage, mileage, things like that.
In the course of conducting the inventory search of the 2017 Chevy Suburban, did you determine if there were any WeatherTech liners in the vehicle?
Yes.
What do you mean by WeatherTech liners, or what are we talking about? So we're on the same page for what a WeatherTech liner is.
Yes, it's a custom formed, but it's a hard rubber mat that protects the vehicle floorboards, interior vehicle floorboards.
And were those custom mats inside the vehicle?
Yes.
Where?
The front left and front right had individual ones, and then there was a very large mat that spread from the second row passenger to the third row rear passenger, one large mat.
Was there a WeatherTech liner in the trunk of that vehicle?
No.
Nothing further, thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Sergeant Pearson.
Morning.
I think we've spoken before.
Yes.
I just have a few questions about what you did at the residence in New Canaan. When you placed, there are a couple of pictures I just want to ask you about, and if I would ask that if we could put up just for a minute, Exhibit 10A. And if you just look back there for a second.
We don't have a 10.
It's numbered, it's the Exhibit 8, but it's, 10. This is 10A from Exhibit 8 that you were just showing a little bit. And I'm just going to ask you if you would please explain. There is a, the yellow tape that's placed on the measuring tape. Is that in inches or in centimeters?
I believe it's just inches. I don't recall if the other side has metric measurements. I'd have to look at it closely.
Right, and you're aware of the fact that if it's metric, there are approximately 2.54 centimeters to 1 inch, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you'll take my word for it.
I will.
All right. Can I zoom in a little bit, please, on the yellow tape measure, please? Zoom it in. And of course, it's a little bit blurry, but you can't tell from here whether it's inches or centimeters, is that right?
It appears to just be inches.
Okay. And then there's the little, could zoom out again, please. Now, you also made reference to some of these white tapes. And again, I'm just going to, I'm referring to, we're talking about these little white items such as what's on the blown up image now. Now, we can't read this in the blow up, can we?
I cannot.
So let me go to, let's go to Exhibit 11 and see if we can see it any better, please. And for the record, this is garage D. This is the section of the garage that you called, I think, D, correct?
Yes.
The portion, all right. And if we can look at, there are a bunch of these little white tapes down there. If we could just slightly zoom in on the white L-shaped portion, let's do the larger one there. Now, there are little numbers that do appear on this photograph, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell whether those are in inches or in centimeters or millimeters for that
I'm familiar with the largest of the two scales, and that is metric. The smaller may have, it looks like it's all metric.
Okay. And do you recall whether the numbers are, the number you see marked centimeters or millimeters? I'm assuming centimeters, but I'm asking you.
Yes, centimeters. The smallers would be millimeters.
All right, now if you look at the bottom right of this blow up there where you see the yellow tape down at the bottom there, and again, I'm just gonna, for the record, these appear to be centimeters as well, do they not?
I believe they're inches.
Okay, fair enough. But if you compare the yellow to the white, you'll see that the measurements in yellow are, of course, where each number is larger than the number of spaces with the lines up on the white part. Is that correct?
Yes.
So just for the benefit of me, so if we're looking at the red mark that I'm now circling here, that's between the L shape of the white centimeter markings. Could you just describe, based on those measurements, the approximate size? And again, I'm not going to ask you to get up there and measure it, but how approximately sized do you see this red mark there? Approximately how long that is and how wide?
I'm merely guessing, but a couple inches possibly.
Okay. All right. And if you would now please go to number 17 on Exhibit 8, please. And you indicated that you marked the something on the ground there under the tire, that you placed that yellow marker on that in that photograph, correct?
No, I did not.
Can you just tell us who placed the markers?
I would guess the evidence officer did that.
Right. So when you say you guess, you weren't there when that was done. Right?
I did not see that, no.
Right. So you didn't have a say in which places markers would be placed,
No.
right? So you come in there on this occasion, at least at the garage, to document what someone has already done with regard to the yellow placards.
Yes,
What about the white? We have a couple of those same white markers on the side of the Range Rover, correct?
yes,
Did you place those?
I did not.
So as I understand it, what about the yellow measuring tape in inches that's marking off the quadrants?
I did not place those.
Right. So someone else, do you know who did that, by the way?
The yellow tapes would have likely been Lieutenant Colonel Davison. The evidentiary items with the white scales or yellow placards, likely the evidence officer,
Okay.
Detective Riley.
But again, you weren't there for that, so you don't know.
I was there, I didn't do it though.
But you don't recall seeing who did it. It's 4.5 years ago.
No, I do not recall.
All right. But did anyone direct you on what to take pictures of on that occasion?
I didn't take any photographs.
No, I'm including the ones we're looking at right now. You took that one, didn't you?
I did not. I didn't take any photographs at 69 Wells. I simply mapped the garage.
I misunderstood. You only did the measurements.
Correct.
And you used the measurements for your map design, which we saw, correct?
Yes.
So, and so I'm clear, of all the photographs that you were shown and you were asked to describe, you took none of those.
I did not.
The measurement maps that we have, you documented what was already in photographs that someone else did. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you added it to your various maps that we saw, right?
I did not. The state did. It's not in my report. I simply included the maps and my narrative in my report.
So when you say the state did, I'm not sure I understand. What do you mean by that?
I think it was prepared for court that way.
Oh, but did you not prepare the actual PDF maps that we just saw?
Yes, just not the photographs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You didn't have photographs interconnected with those, with your maps?
Correct.
You just did that?
Yes.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Is there a redirect,
No, sir, thank you.
or did you make that?
Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may have a brief 5-minute break just to set up the computer with respect to Detective Riley. He is my only other witness for today, but there is some documentation the state wishes to show him.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a matter of setting up for the next witness. We would ask that you return to the deliberation room. Please do not discuss the case.
Do you want me to call them up on my computer?
Okay, a bit of business today. Jesse Kershesky has a status conference hearing today with Judge Doro back in Waukesha. And
Court's order is that there be no photos taken for which we can. That is not permitted. So if you can muffle the clip, that would be in compliance with the order. Do we have to take up the argument on the motion to preclude presumptive blood testing at this point?
Yes, Your Honor. If I just have a moment to. It's my understanding that through this witness, the state is going to try to introduce at least 3, perhaps 4, because I went through this last night, photographs of the glow of either luminol or Kastle-Meyer, which is shortened in some documents to KM, which is the reagent test, the presumptive test for blood. I had cited in my motion State versus Moody. I also cited the New Jersey appellate court case of State versus Pittman and the Arkansas case of Young versus State, which were subsequent to Moody, that all stand for the proposition that the presumptive test for blood, whether they use luminol or they use the Kastle-Meyer product, is some kind of an aerosol spray that reacts to different substances. One of the substances is blood. There's other fluids that do, but also certain kinds of cleansers do, certain rust products do. There may be I saw one article that listed 30 things that react to it. Now, I'm not sure, other than what the state mentioned yesterday, the idea that it should come in just so that the state can explain why certain pictures were taken. We're about to see, I didn't count them all, but about 40 photographs that cover all of these same areas. We've already seen pictures of drops of blood, alleged blood, or blood-like stains from both the Suburban and from the garage. We also had the video that showed and there were zoom-ins of the same thing, as well as the body camera showing something that was a blood-like stain. Now, State versus Moody addresses 2 issues, and the case that was mentioned yesterday, the Grant case, and there are a couple of other appellate court cases. There were 2 issues in Moody, and I want to make this clear because the state has kind of conflated the 2 issues. The first issue in Moody was whether or not a lay witness or anyone else, a police officer, could imply that something looked like blood, and whether a lay opinion was appropriate in the absence of confirmatory testing. Both in Moody, there's another case called Whipple, State versus Whipple, where they discussed that, and then in Grant, they explained the difference between the findings in Moody and Whipple. And in the Grant case, where it wasn't about luminol, it wasn't about this presumptive blood testing. It was instead about whether a lay witness can say, looked like there was a pool of blood, the person was bloody, etc. And that was the issue in those later cases. I think I emphasized yesterday, I don't want to have to re-quote it, but the Supreme Court specifically, the Supreme Court of Connecticut has specifically said that there is absolutely no probative value whatsoever in the presumptive testing. And therefore, the fact that they took some additional photographs, which we're going to have every inch of these vehicles being photographed anyway, because there's a presumptive test that glowed, is going to confuse the jury. And I'm going to explain, it's not just going to be about here. Later on, when they do the presumptive test of the glow, the luminol in the Tacoma, it wasn't blood at all. It's not human. It's not organic. So it's the only possible reaction of this jury is they're going to be thinking that somehow, aha, the fact that this it glowed in the blue light, there must be more blood there. There's hard, as the court is well aware, there is not very much blood at all on either scene, either on the Suburban, which now the court has seen, or in the garage. So the danger here is the prejudice is the jury's going to think, oh, well, there's more because this spray makes it look like there was even more that we're not picking up. But in both cases, as far as I know, when they tested it, it was when it went to the lab, it was not blood. But when we get back to the issue at hand, since it has no probative value under Moody, and the issue has to do with whether or not it's going to either be confusing or in some way prejudicial. If they're going to try and introduce it, then I insist that we have a Porter hearing, because if the court, I thought it's already been decided that it has no value, and a lab person down the road may testify to that. But in light of your ruling from yesterday, if the state doesn't ask a subject matter, I don't get to cross-examine about it. And then only if I decide to put on a case in the defense case would it even come out. And so, in following the court's rulings and the way the court wishes to proceed, we're talking about 3 or 4 pictures today through Detective Riley, or I don't know if he's now a sergeant, but he was a detective at the time, and asking in the question why he took certain pictures, which I submit is irrelevant since they took pictures of everything and documented everything. So in light of the decision in Moody and in the case of State versus Whipple, where there's such a strong view by the Connecticut Supreme Court that has no probative value, and they use the word whatsoever, that it will only lead to prejudice. And I submit that the argument that, well, they can distinguish Moody, not on this issue. There is not a single case that I could find anywhere that said that it had probative value at all. That is, we're talking about this reagent spray test, at any probative value whatsoever. But there's a lot of not only danger or prejudice, but confusion. What's the jury going to think? What's the court going to instruct the jury? That it has no value and we're only putting it in because that's where the officer wanted to take pictures? There's like 40 pictures we're about to see from Detective Riley. The whole car, the 3 pictures where they use the blue light to do that, or the black light rather, and it looks blue in the photographs. There's no explanation for it. There's no legitimate basis for it. So on those bases, I ask the court to preclude, again, we're talking about 3 or maybe 4 pictures out of 40 which are going in. I could also argue cumulative, but we don't even get to that in light of the fact that there's just such danger with this particular misunderstanding and misapprehension for what's essentially junk science. There are a lot of things they could, I'll give you one last example and I'll see. There could be a situation where a police officer conducts a polygraph test and said, yes, polygraphs are not admissible, but based on what was said, I then went and did X. But of course, the Supreme Court has said you can't bring in polygraph for any reason because it's not reliable and has no probative value. So to use that as the reason for conduct by a police officer in this case would certainly be more prejudicial than probative. And it's also not necessary for the state's case to prove their case. I just have 1 minute. I've also been reminded that in Moody, the court talked about how that particular piece of evidence had an impact on the jury. And that's why the Supreme Court was so adamant that it's not admissible, because it has no validity in either science or in law. Thank you.
So first, Attorney Schoenhorn, the court wants to understand what the nature of the testimony may be from this next witness. So this next witness took photographs, is that correct?
No, that is not correct, Your Honor. If I may interject, the next witness didn't take any photographs. The next witness is the evidence officer who determined which items in the garage to seize as exhibits and or document as evidence. He authored an evidence report or exhibit report, which indicates every item that is documented on Sergeant Pearson's map. He is the individual who made that decision in connection with Lieutenant Colonel Davidson to examine those items. He also, if you look at the exhibit report, did KM testing on around 30 of those exhibits, Your Honor. Some of which, about 4 of them, came back negative. He documented that as well. There are about 3 or 4 photographs the state intends to introduce as well with respect to the luminol that was done on the car that counsel is referring to, but it's not by itself what this detective is testifying to. He's testifying to the content of the photographs, not taking them. So just to be very clear on that.
Well, what is his testimony expected to be?
His testimony is going to walk through the garage, identify the items that were seized as exhibits in 69 Wells itself, in the house.
So let the court interject here. His testimony is going to be what items were seized that were of evidentiary value, correct?
And what he did when he processed the scene, yes.
Let's just talk about what he decided to seize.
Yes, Your Honor.
So his testimony is going to be he decided to seize what?
With respect
With respect to
to
this issue.
presumptive test, yes, Your Honor. He worked in connection with Lieutenant Colonel Davidson with respect to the blood pattern analysis that was done. He seized various swabbings of various blood spatter that was found, including some of the exhibits. He tested them for using the KM test. He then swabbed them, the process of swabbing them and logging them as exhibits in this case.
So again, the court has to ask this question. What he did was swab those areas of that vehicle or garage floor, correct?
He swabbed those areas and he performed the KM test. And then they were subsequently sent to the lab. He is part of that chain in command. That is the nature of the testimony presented, Your Honor, with respect to the presumptive test.
So he is going to be asked, the court assumes, that he did not take the photographs, correct? Because Attorney Pearson did not take the photographs.
She did not, and the state did not offer them as a photographer. I offered them as a representation of what the map was. And
Well, the only way, counsel, that the jury knows what was or what the garage floor looked like was through photographs.
yes,
The only way that your next witness can testify about what he swabbed is because we saw the photographs.
those, and there are more photographs that the state intends to introduce. He will testify to each one if necessary. If counsel is objecting to those photographs coming in, then I will lay a foundation for each and every one, utilizing the screen and asking him if that is a fair and accurate representation of what he observed that day. And what he sees as evidence. I have no problem doing that, Your Honor. I did not do that, by the way, with Sergeant Pearson, just for the court, because counsel did not have any objection to the photographs coming in to save time, but I will if that is what is needed.
Well, the testimony is going to have to reach the point where he says he swabbed this area because.
Yes.
And that's where this issue arises, correct?
If I may just clarify and actually bounce off what counsel said, what we discussed yesterday, and I believe the court order ruled an issue on, is the fact that the police officer can testify, or even lay witness can testify, that something appears to be blood-like. That would be the start of the testimony. Then I believe Detective Riley will testify as to, once he determined that it was blood-like, what his next steps were, either to swab it or test it for utilizing the KF test. So it's a link in the chain after. So just to keep those two issues separate.
Just to phrase it colloquially, he's going to testify, it looked like blood to me.
Yes.
Next, he's going to indicate that it was swabbed because it looked like blood to him.
Yes.
And also he performed a presumptive test, correct?
Yes, but just to qualify that, Your Honor, I don't believe that the only reason it was further swabbed and further steps were taken was simply because of the look of the item. It was the entire concept or the facts of the case, including the fact that we have Farber Dulos is a missing mother of 5 who dropped her kids off from school and never returned home, including the fact that it all happened in her home. The blood was positioned in one location and made it more likely that it was blood. There were numerous factors going into his decision. So it is a little more nuanced than that.
Well, counsel has indicated that there are a number of grounds on which he believes that a lay witness should not testify concerning the presumptive test. Now, what counsel laid out, and the court is just indicating what it understands from the argument. First, it may confuse the jury. Second, is that it was prejudicial. Well, the issue is not whether it's prejudicial, it's whether it's unfairly prejudicial. So what the court is going to do is review State versus Moody and any related cases. And we have to take a recess for that.
And if I may, Your Honor, I would ask the court to review State v. Grant, which is 286 con 499.
286 con 499.
Yes, sir, it's a 2008 case, as well as State v. Downing, which
State v. Downing.
Downing, DOWNING, 68 Con App 388, 2002.
The citation again, please.
68 Con App 388, 2002 case. And of course, the state would always refer, yesterday I referred to State v. Schaefer, which is that 1975, 168 Con 309. So I would ask the court to review those, and then after, at some point, the state would like to be heard on the motion, on the legal analysis side of it. I would just ask the court for that time when the court is ready.
One other matter that we don't have to talk about this second, but what I just heard Attorney Manning say is that they're also going to suggest that the reason certain pictures were taken because of all this hearsay that he heard. So they're going to do a narrative about what they think their theory is, which again is not necessary. This is the evidence technician who gathered evidence. I was also under the impression, based on what was said, that they took photographs at the same time. But if they didn't, I'm not going to object to the other photographs coming in through this witness. They obviously, whoever took them, and there are multiple detectives who took photographs at various points. I'm not going to require the author of those photographs, because any witness can say, is this fair and accurately represent what it looked like when you're in there? So I'm indicating that for the record. However, asking to explain why he took certain photographs so we can get into multiple narratives about the hearsay about the case, when all he needs to say is, I went in there, I had information, and I took photographs. What he heard about the case is not relevant to his actions. And it would also involve the confrontation, my right to confront and cross-examine about whatever he was told, whether it was accurate or an inaccurate, where this witness won't be able to say. And I just think it'll take us on a little detour, unnecessary detour through allegations that were, being made in the media and from other individuals. So I just note that may be part of what's going to be heard. I just don't know.
Can I just clarify again? This witness did not take the photographs. Counsel keeps reiterating about why photographs were taken. It's not the state's intention to offer testimony that Detective Riley ordered those photographs taken because the photographer meant to take that specific photograph. It's the actual exhibit seized.
Fair enough. I will amend my remarks. The fact that he took certain swabs does not depend upon the nature of the investigation in terms of what he had heard about what had happened in the days before he got there. He was assigned to take certain, it looks the way it looked, he took certain swabs, and then it went to the lab. I have no objection to any of that. It's this prejudicial notion that we have to get into either hearsay or worse, junk science as a basis, which the Supreme Court has said easily confuses the jury, especially since we won't be hearing from the lab until at least a week from now, as far as I know.
If I can, Your Honor, just clarify a few things here. And again, I would like to be heard on the law. So if at some point I would, so before we get back into cases, but just to make sure that the record is very clear that the detective with his training experience is going to testify, and this is the offer of proof, about why he took a swab. It's not just because of the color. Otherwise, we'd be taking ketchup stains everywhere. It is because of his training and experience and his interpretation as the evidence officer. He has a right to that testimony. With respect to the law, I will reserve my argument for when Your Honor deems fit.
Well, it is clear that the evidence officer was summoned to 69 Wells Lane because there was a missing persons report. So one could claim, well, that's hearsay.
I'm not objecting to that, Your Honor. Just
Thank you. This is going to take some time for the court to review these cases. So, of course, the court would allow the jury to go into a recess at this point anyway. We're probably not going to come back until 12:15. Stand in the recess until 12:15.
All rise. This honorable Supreme Court now stands in recess until 12:15.
I thought he said that the jury was coming back in. Very strange. Let me take a. Oops. Mm-mm. Mm. I'm just checking to see what's going on. I was taking care of some business on another tab. Okay, recess until 12:15. So, that's a half an hour, or 12:15. That would be 10:15 for me. So we've got 45 minutes. Ooh, oh boy. Okay, let me take a quick look and see if what we've got. Aowen has come to say hello. Okay, let's see. We've got okay, let's see if the treehouse trial is on a break as well. Okay, let's dip into the treehouse trial. Oops.
Was the evidence still the same, or did it change, or is there a reason why she wasn't arrested?
Because she never rose to the level of a murder suspect in this investigation.
Two witnesses saying that she was?
Objection argumentative. I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Um, Now, did you know just a little bit? Okay, it's treehouse. Was Miss? I think I asked you if you were there, Miss Clay. When she was brought back to the treehouse on the second day. You said no, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Okay, so you weren't there for this, but did they find any evidence that you know of from Miss Clay at the treehouse on the second day that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Were you ever made aware of writings on the wall that were on the treehouse wall?
Yeah, in like 2019, I believe.
You were made aware of those in 2019.
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't know anything about those until then.
Correct.
Okay, good. And what were these writings on the wall purported to be?
Honestly, I don't
Remember
know.
what they were?
No,
Okay.
sir.
And do you remember what evidentiary value they had?
No, sir.
Okay, so you, and you, I don't know, you said you saw pictures, is that correct?
I may have seen a picture, but not that I recall. It was like spray paint words on a wall.
Okay, but you don't know who wrote them and you don't
No,
know.
no, sir.
Okay, were you there for when they interviewed Miss Sanathia Clay?
I was not.
Okay, so that would have been who interviewed her? Just out of refreshing my memory.
I believe that was Captain Phelps, Detective Corey, and maybe Detective Moeller.
Okay. All right. So, that would be Detective Mueller, Detective Corey, and Captain Phelps.
Yes, sir.
All right. And, okay. Again, we back to the beginning of the investigation again. So the first night, you said you went to, you took care of Paula, and then the next night, and then after that, it was Roger Roget, right? And you interviewed him. Okay, so what did you do on the second day besides canvas? Anything?
I believe that was it.
Just canvassing for evidence, and you didn't find any?
No, I didn't.
Okay, what evidence were you there? What evidence were you there for when it was gathered?
I believe it was the second day they found a mask and a boat.
Okay, but you didn't collect it, somebody else did. Who was it that collected that evidence? Do you remember?
I don't know. I wasn't there when they found it. I just was told they found it.
Okay, so you're told they found him. Oh, you didn't actually see it.
I saw it
Oh, okay, you
as
saw
we
it.
were waiting for the crime scene.
Okay, so I'm coming back and tag it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so, but you never found any evidence on that second day?
No, sir.
Okay, what would you do on the third day?
I believe more walking and canvassing Stock Island.
Do you remember knocking on any doors? I mean, do you remember what neighborhood you were canvassing in, where you were?
We were walking, a good majority of the time was in Water's Edge Trailer Park. That's not there anymore, but it was just down the street from where the treehouse was.
Okay.
In that area, and then focusing on Second Street that goes past Tom Thumb, the fire station, Florida Keys Electric, and then the warehouse.
Okay.
In that area.
So just that little part of the neighborhood in Stock Island? Okay.
Yes, that general area.
You just kind of reminded me something about the Florida Keys Electric video. That was, for the record, was that the video that I had you replay up there? The one with, we were talking about Travis Johnson, that stuff.
Yes, I believe that was the Florida Keys Electric.
Okay, just want to make sure. And how much time of the video did they give? How much time did you guys collect? Do you remember?
I
on
don't
that
know.
video?
I don't know.
You don't remember? Okay, yeah. Do you know of any more than the 7? I think it's 7 minutes. I think I want to say, but whatever that video is in length. Did you guys ever get any more from Florida Keys Electric that you know of?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so not to your knowledge. Okay, so we're back to you're canvassing the neighborhood and you're going through all the different locations, that are close to there. I guess was it the Tom Thumb, the fire department, the treehouse, and you said Water's Edge Trailer Park. Okay, so you didn't find anything in those areas, is what you told us. This would be the third day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're on the third day, nothing there. What'd you do on the fourth day?
The fourth day, I believe I spent a good majority of the time watching surveillance videos.
Okay, watching videos. And what were the surveillance videos? Did you collect them yourself, or did somebody bring them to you, or?
Most of them were brought to us by different detectives.
All right, it's different detectives bringing them in from different places, right? Like the CVS or whatever, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. But you're reviewing them, checking them out to see what you find.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay, gotcha. And okay, so while you're doing this, these surveillance videos, again, which places were you actually reviewing? Was it which videos?
It was mainly CVS's.
The CVS's videos?
Yes.
Okay, and did you collect all the tapes from CVS, or did they give you all the tapes from CVS?
I believe so. There's hours upon hours.
I seem to remember the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, now, but you believe they gave you all the video footage they had from CVS?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there weren't any cameras broken? There weren't any cameras that were malfunctioning or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
Okay, good. And did you find anything in the CVS videos that you were reviewing?
No, sir.
Okay, so they weren't really of evidentiary value, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other videos besides CVS?
At that time, no, I don't believe so. I believe it was
Just,
Mainly the CVS videos.
so just the CBS videos, this would be, what, the fourth day? Fourth day?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
the fourth day.
So what'd you do on the fifth day?
The fifth day, I believe, is the day that I assisted with the photo lineup
Okay.
with Todd O'Quinn. We also got the Cosme video
Okay.
on the fifth day.
Okay, do you remember when you got the video?
I do not.
I don't remember if it was in the morning or the afternoon.
I believe it was late. I
Okay.
believe
Oh,
it was
more in the evening.
more in the evening.
Okay,
yes.
so more than, and okay, now, let's see, 17th, and I said we're on day 5, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so that would be 17th to the 18th, 19th, 20th, and then 21st. Okay, what did you do on the 21st?
The 21st.
Oh, actually, that would be the 5th day, would be the 21st. Now, again, you just said that you were reviewing videos. Did you do anything else that day?
Not that I recall.
Did you guys perhaps conduct a no-knock raid on the warehouse on the 21st?
Yeah, that might have been the 21st.
Okay, was Mr. Wilson taken into custody on the 21st?
I would have to refresh my memory as to the exact date that
Oh.
happened.
Did they, okay, you were, if I remember correctly, you were there. So when I brought in to the station on the 21st, was I brought in handcuffs?
Yes, I do believe so, sir.
Okay, and now did you at one time say I was free to go?
I
At
don't
any
know if
time.
I don't know if I said it, but somebody did.
Okay, and this is, but I'm in handcuffs, right?
I don't recall.
Anyway, so I'm brought in on the 21st. We established that because that was the night of the no-knock raid. Now, the no-knock raid, you took myself and Rory Wilson down to the headquarters, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, not you personally, somebody else drove me. Okay, and this is where you did the initial interviews with the suspects, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and, like I said, at some point, because I actually remember we did the interviews together somewhat, but okay, in the interview process, was I taken out of the interview room and taken downstairs and put in a squad car, still in handcuffs,
You were placed back into handcuffs.
and put down in a squad car, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how long was I down there?
I don't know offhand.
What was the purpose of putting me down there?
I believe so we can interview Rory.
Okay, now was I still free to go at any time?
At that time, no, I don't know. I would say no, you were in handcuffs in the back of a police car.
Okay, and was I in handcuffs in back of a police car when I left the warehouse to come back? Or when I entered this, I should say, because you were at the station, when I entered the station, did I enter in handcuffs?
I don't recall.
This would be right after that. Okay, so were you at the raid itself?
I was.
Okay, and did you initiate the search warrant for that raid?
Did I write the search warrant?
Did you go and seek the search warrant?
Yes.
Okay, and you're the one who got the search warrant for it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what did you write the search warrant for specifically?
For any and all evidence that could be found at whatever the warehouse's exact address on Second Street.
The address of the warehouse is a big place.
Yes, sir.
So was it the address for the entire warehouse, or was it just that one spot?
It was the address for the warehouse, but I do believe I specified the living areas where Rory Wilson
Okay.
was at.
Okay, so Rory Wilson's apartment.
Yes.
Okay, was Rory Wilson's apartment attached to the upstairs of the warehouse?
Honestly, it was all attached.
I mean, was it considered the same spot? I mean, like, okay, a lot of apartments in apartment buildings, but that doesn't mean they're the same apartment. Was it the same spot as far as, was it the same apartment, or was it a different apartment upstairs?
To my knowledge, it was the same apartment
And, okay, what led you to believe that?
because I didn't know anything else about the warehouse other than it was sectioned off into apartments.
And how long were you at the warehouse when that night? I don't know, so I'd like to ask.
maybe 20 minutes.
20 minutes, and when is this, when they first came in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so were you there at the front door or were you at the back?
I was at the front door.
Okay, in the front door. And now the front door is the one they took me out of, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, because I don't remember, but okay. But here's the thing, it's okay. So you were at the front door, but you weren't close enough to see whether or not I was the one that they pulled from upstairs.
Correct. I was there at the front to set the perimeter around so where I was at when they executed the search warrant was all the way out at the street.
Okay.
Watching the street and kind of the sides of the very large building of
Good,
the
yeah.
warehouse.
Just explain to the jury, the whole idea of the perimeter, what you're doing with the perimeter when you did that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, explain to them what you're doing when you're doing that. What are you doing when you're setting the perimeter? Why did you do it?
In case somebody, when we executed the search warrant, in case somebody fled out of the building, we would be out far enough to be able to detain them, apprehend them, find out who they are.
So back to that. So the idea from the beginning was to detain me, right? To detain me, not just Rory Wilson, but to detain me.
I didn't know who you were, sir.
Okay, so you didn't know who I was at that point.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, you don't know, but you know who I was after I got to the station, correct?
Mhm.
So when I get to the station, where do I go from there? Do you remember?
After we were done with the interviews,
After they brought me into the station, what'd you guys do with me?
interviewed you.
I'm going to object on a relevance basis. Oh, I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you. Ms. Malone, what did you guys, I'm in handcuffs. Coming into the station, what did you're there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and who else was there? Do you remember?
Detective Pitcher was there.
Okay. And anybody else?
Probably Captain. Specifically, that would have been there.
So who brought me in? Who brought me in? Where'd they put me? It wasn't you, correct?
It was not me.
Okay, so it wasn't me. When's the first time you met me?
In the interview room.
In the interview room. Okay, so we're in the interview room. You just brought me in. I would assume your intentions were to question me, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you guys ask me a bunch of questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and at the end of those questions, did they let me go, did they allow me to leave the station?
Yes, after the interview, you were free to leave and you left.
Okay, and so is it safe to assume that there wasn't, in your opinion or in the lead detective's opinion, whoever's making the decision, it wasn't enough to arrest me?
Correct.
Okay, and okay, so afterwards, I'm obviously free. I get arrested the night of the 22nd, because I remember that 21st went to the 22nd. But okay, that night, what changed in between the 21st and the 22nd when I get arrested?
During your interview and Rory Wilson's interview, you both put yourselves with John Travis Johnson.
Well, it's, one might have to watch that too. But okay, so the thing is,
I will sustain the objection. Again, there's no commentary allowed.
I'll watch myself here on. Okay, Ms. Malone, you said that, I was brought in because of that. What I'm saying is our interviews were done on the 21st, right? Rory
Correct.
Wilson's and mine, the ones that you just said that we used John Travis Johnson as an alibi or whatever, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I was let go after that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you're saying I was arrested for those same two interviews. So why wasn't I arrested at that point?
Because we had not interviewed John Travis Johnson yet.
Okay, so it was John Travis Johnson's interview that got me arrested.
That was the final, to put it all together, everything that we knew. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now don't get me wrong, that, Rory Wilson allegedly testified that, or made statements about me. It's not again, it's alleged that it's Rory Wilson allegedly made statements about me, correct?
Yes, he stated that you were there
Oh,
during the
sorry.
planning of the
I'm
robbery.
just asking whether or not he made statements. I didn't ask what he said.
Sorry, yes,
Now, okay, so that is what you're alleging here. And okay, John Travis Johnston allegedly made statements against me, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay, and those are the two things. Anything else in this investigation? So far, we're up to day 5 when I get arrested. Anything else in this investigation saying that, saying I had something to do with this?
The Cosme video.
And the Cosme video, you just said not too long ago, correct me if I'm wrong, that Cosme video, you can't tell who's in the video, that you decided who's in the video based on the investigation.
Correct.
Okay, and your investigation was Rory Wilson and John Travis Johnston at this point, right?
Correct.
So you're saying that their word tells you that I'm the guy in the video.
Correct.
Okay, and even though you can't see me, you can't see me in the video. So it's just them saying it's me, that's good enough, right?
I don't understand, I'm sorry.
Okay, maybe I should clarify myself just a little bit. I guess I'm a little nervous or whatever. But here's the thing. Video, when we were watching the video, we established that, yes, you could not see anybody in that video, right?
I could see people, body shapes,
Body
body
shape.
made,
But not make an identification,
not faces, no, sir.
right? No faces. Okay, and now you just testified that the only investigation that you knew of me, right, was from Rory and Travis.
And the Cosme video.
Well, again, this is what we're talking about, this Cosme video. Cosme video, you said you can't identify anybody in it, right? So, okay, if you can't identify anybody in it, I'm asking how that is evidence against me at that point.
Yes, this is argumentative. It's been asked and answered.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, well, we'll move on. Okay, so I get arrested, right? Do you remember were you there when they arrested me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and, they took me, if I remember correctly, took me over to the jail and, would that be? No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
Sustain the objection. It's his testimonial, so you can
Okay.
ask questions.
Okay.
Not testify.
Did you see me again after I went to jail?
When I got the buccal swab.
Vocal swab. Now, you'll have to refresh my memory because I don't remember you taking a vocal swab from me, but did you, could you please tell me what day that was?
I would have to look at
Now,
the
did you?
property receipt to refresh my memory as to what day it was.
Okay, I'd be perfectly happy to let you do that because I honestly don't remember. And I don't remember if you did do one on me. So the thing is do you remember, again, you put it into evidence, correct? Is there any other buccal swabs from me that you know of?
Not that I know of, no, sir.
Okay, so that's the DNA that was used for the FDLE report. Is that correct?
I would assume so. That's not my purview, but
Oh, but you bagged it and you tagged it, right?
and turned it in.
And then it goes from that to whoever is going to do the testing or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Right, gotcha. Okay. All right, so we're at that stage. Now, did you interview any of the witnesses in the case?
I was there when Roosevelt Washington was interviewed.
Okay, Roosevelt Washington.
Yes.
Did he say I had anything to do with this?
Objection here
Or-
sustained.
Did he have any evidence, anything of evidentiary value to add to your investigation?
No.
Okay, so nothing from Roosevelt Washington, right? And please tell me, tell the jury actually who Roosevelt Washington was and why you would even be interviewing.
He was in the trailer with Matthew Bonnet when the robbery occurred.
Okay, so this is another person who was on scene when it actually happened,
Yes, sir.
but he didn't have anything to say really of evidentiary value.
No, sir.
All right, so moving on. Any other witnesses that that you actually talked to?
I talked to one subject, Odom. I don't remember his first name.
Would that be,
They're one of the neighborhood canvases,
would it be Austin Odom?
probably,
Okay, and do you remember why he was of interest to you?
because we were talking to all kinds of people that were in the area, and he lived at the warehouse.
Okay, so lived at the warehouse. To be clear, Was it thought that we were all living at the warehouse?
I believe Paula stated that she thought Detroit lived there.
She's gotten a trike lift there?
That Detroit, Roy
Oh,
Wilson
Detroit lived there. Gotcha.
lived there.
Could you please again tell them who Detroit, AKA
Detroit
Troy
is the street name for Rory Wilson.
Okay. Now, you're saying because you got information that Detroit lived there, right? Now, how did you guys obtain this information?
That was, I believe Paula told me that in her interview.
She told you?
That he lived in a warehouse, possibly on Front Street, but she wasn't certain, but
Okay.
it was in that area.
Now, could you, if I let you refer again back to your affidavit, would you have wrote the same thing in your affidavit?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you write the same thing, what you just said to us in your affidavit, that you had found that out by Paula Belamonte's
I don't know
statements?
if I wrote that in my affidavit or not.
Okay, but do you remember what you wrote in your affidavit?
I remember a majority of what I wrote. It's
Just,
4 pages long.
okay, no, I'm sorry. I was, just not that one, right? That one you don't remember.
I don't remember if I wrote that in there or not.
Okay, just want to clarify. All right, so do you remember what else you wrote in that affidavit?
Can you be more specific?
Okay, about my part in the crime. Do you remember how I came about to be a suspect?
Yes.
Okay, and how was that?
We had found out that Rory Wilson had been at Metro PCS to pay a phone bill with another subject.
Was I a subject at that point?
No,
Okay, so I was nobody at this point.
correct.
Okay,
At
and
this point, I'm gonna object. He asked a question, and he's not letting the computer answer.
well, it's just
I'm gonna overrule the objection. At this point.
I would be again. I apologize. I just
I overruled the objection. I didn't see a problem there.
Okay. Miss Malone. Okay. Again, how did I become a suspect? As far as okay, you didn't know anything about me at this point. Metro PCS phone bill. Please continue.
I believe Metro PCS gave us your name because I believe it was you that was actually paying your phone bill. And then 2 of the general crimes detectives that was assisting us went over to, I believe, the warehouse and talked to you, and you gave us the name of Rory Detroit Wilson.
Okay. Did they say I acted suspicious or that there was something that, something I did that made me a suspect at that point?
No,
Okay, so I'm still not a suspect, right?
no, sir.
Okay, and so please continue. Where'd we go after that? How did, again, how do I become a suspect?
Once we determined the legal name of Detroit, because that's all that Paula could give us was street name Detroit, and there's shockingly quite a few people that go by the street name Detroit. Once we were able to get a name for him, that's when we prepared the search warrant for where Detroit Rory Wilson was living at the warehouse. When we executed the search warrant at the warehouse, Mr. Tucker, you were there.
Okay, but just to, again, I'm not trying to stop you in your middle of your statement. But since we're going to pause, I just want to pause right there. Okay, so still not a suspect, right?
No, sir.
Okay, so the search warrant, was my name on there to be detained?
I don't believe anybody's name was on there to be detained.
But you said you went and got it for Rory Wilson's apartment.
I did.
Okay, so was Rory Wilson supposed to be detained if he was a suspect of being Detroit?
That's the standard practice with the sheriff's office when we execute a search warrant. Every individual that's in that premise is detained.
Okay, please, and this is my ignorance, and I'm going to actually ask you to explain to the jury because I'm kind of ignorant of these things. Please explain to them the whole process as far as the search warrant thing. What do you do to get a search warrant? What is it that, again, how do you go about this process? When you go from writing it to getting it to executing it?
Well, in order to get a search warrant, we get everything that we know at the time that we want to try to go and search the place. We write it out in an affidavit. We have to have what they determine probable cause. We have to have a reason why we're going to this house. We laid it out based on that Paula had identified Rory Wilson Detroit as the guy that held a knife to her throat and punched her a whole bunch of times in the face while demanding her purse. We now know who he is. So now we want to go search his house because she identified him and we want to see what evidence is in the house. Once we as the detectives, once I wrote the search warrant, I then give that form to the state attorney because they're the lawyers and everything, and they look at it and they say yay or nay as to whether or not there's enough to bother a judge with to sign the search warrant. The state attorneys at the time determined, yes, we had enough. We woke up a judge, and the judge actually met me at the sheriff's office headquarters, signed the search warrant. And then once we have that signed search warrant, depending on the type of search warrant it is, and this search warrant was for the residence of a murder suspect, we had our SWAT team execute the search warrant because when there's that type of crime, there's a danger to everybody involved. And they're trained in doing that, and they do it all the time. Us detectives that don't do that stuff, we set the perimeter, which is what I did. I was on the perimeter. They executed the search warrant, which there's a lot of, they have to read it to the occupants. And again, whenever we do a search warrant, be it for, especially on a residence, everybody that's in that residence is going into handcuffs pretty much immediately.
Okay.
And they're detained.
Is that about it?
Yeah, I believe so. I think I covered it.
Okay, good. Thank you for explaining that to them. Okay, so now going back to the search warrant and how it's executed and how you get it and all that stuff. Is it based on an address or is it based on the subject? Is it based on the person or on the address?
Honestly, it depends on the type of search warrant.
I'm talking about the one you wrote. Do you
It was
remember?
based on the address.
It's based on the address. So Rory Wilson wasn't actually considered, you weren't, there's nothing in there saying detain Rory Wilson.
Not that I recall.
Okay, but did you have the intentions on detaining Rory Wilson if you saw him there?
Absolutely.
Okay, because he's a murder suspect. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so, again, you're going there, you have the search warrant for Rory Wilson's apartment, and you're going there with the intention of detaining Rory. Okay, now again, is there any reason to detain me at this point?
Because you're in the apartment.
Just because I'm in the apartment, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you agree that if you went into apartments, right, say it was apartment complex, what happens when you go into the wrong apartment?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever done that.
Okay, well, again, as far as search warrants go, it has to be for that specific location. You can't just get a search warrant and go wherever you want, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's very specific, right? Okay, was Rory Wilson renting the upstairs?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. Did anybody else know that was there?
Not that I know of.
So nobody knew this. Did you have a meeting before you go and execute this, or do you guys just go over there and knock on the door?
No, we had a meeting prior.
Okay. So you had a meeting prior, and again, you're not specific though. You're not very sure about which areas are Rory Wilson's and which ones are not.
Correct, because we're talking about a warehouse that was makeshift into apartments.
Okay. Makeshift into apartments, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
big warehouse though, right?
Yes, very
Okay.
big warehouse.
And lots of different sections of those, right?
Lots of doors. I never fully went inside it, so I couldn't.
Okay. Well, based on when you were inside of it, did it seem like there were walls that separated out the different sections, or was
Yes.
it, okay, it was just big open room?
No, there was walls, and it was made into An apartment, there was a bathroom. I
And
remember
so-
that. I believe there was a bedroom.
So you didn't search any of the other sections or the other apartments in those sections?
I didn't search any,
Did anybody search those
I-
apartments?
I don't know, sir.
I'm just asking I'm asking you, like, not, okay, I know where you guys executed the warrant, right?
Yes,
Any of the other sections that we just talked about, those sections in that warehouse where there's other apartments or other, whatever people are renting, right? Did you guys search any of those?
no,
And again, why wouldn't you search those?
because that's not where Rory Wilson lived.
Right, because that's not where Rory Wilson lived. Now, Rory Wilson, according to, again, the documents that have been submitted, I guess, he was that was his apartment in the back, right?
I don't remember if it was back or front, but yes.
Okay. And do you remember him having any other door other than the one that was in the warehouse?
There was one in the front and then the back of the
No,
warehouse.
that's even why we said that, right? That you were at the front.
Yeah.
There are other people who came in from the back,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay. And then that was targeted as Rory Wilson's apartment. No, or I've known whether or not the upstairs was part of Rory Wilson's apartment.
No, I would not have known that.
Okay. And County Sheriff's Department, had it ever been to that, even in that specific section of the warehouse prior to, the no-knock raid on there that you know of?
Not that I know of.
You got knocked on that door ever before? That's what I'm asking. Okay, so this is your first time at the warehouse, Rory Wilson's apartment. And did they take anything of any evidentiary value out of that you know of?
They took evidence, but I was not there. I don't know what all they took.
Okay, so you didn't take any, but
No.
you know they did take evidence
They
from
took
there.
stuff,
Okay.
yes, sir.
And you don't know if it had evidentiary value or not?
I do not.
Okay, good. All right, so okay, now we're up to, let's see, just before I get arrested, right? Or just when I got arrested. Okay, what was your involvement with the investigation after all the suspects had been arrested?
Not much.
Okay, and we talked about Anthony Clay, suspect still at large, right?
Correct. Not a suspect, but somebody we wanted to interview.
Okay, you want an interviewer, but again, I don't want to get redundant here, but okay. So, again, according to your affidavit, she's, again, been named a suspect by a few different witnesses.
Yes,
Okay, but she's not a suspect you go and try and find.
that wasn't my,
So you said there wasn't much involvement for you after this, right? As far as after Rory and me and Travis were all arrested, right? But there's not much involvement for you after that.
no, just like the search warrant of
The truck,
the truck and the recovery of Paula's backpack.
okay. Let's get back to the search on the truck, because that reminds me of that. The search on the truck, again, you go there, we've already established that it wasn't impounded for 10, 15, 20 days?
It wasn't searched.
Objection's been asked and answered.
Okay. Well, okay. Okay. Well, in that case, was the truck ever impounded?
Same objection.
We haven't established that it was impounded.
It's been asked and answered. I'm going to sustain the
Okay.
objection.
Okay. What happened to the truck afterwards?
We left it where it was parked.
Left it where it was parked. Okay. Did anybody ever come to collect the truck?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Okay. Let's get back to the search of it. Now you said, that Captain Phelps was there, you were there. Who's CCPO?
Well,
I'm-
let's see if
I was just going to ask about,
Excuse me. Let's see if there's something new that hasn't been asked.
okay. Who's CC Hoverson?
She is a deputy that works in the training division
Okay. And why was she at this search of a vehicle used in a homicide?
for learning training purposes.
She was learning.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now, did the forensics guy, you said John Underwood that was there, if I remember correctly,
Yes, sir.
did he search the vehicle?
I believe he did.
Okay, you believe he did, but do you know he did?
I don't recall if he did or not.
Okay, and you said the search, if you remember right, that you videotaped the search, right? So would John Underwood be on that video checking out the truck?
I don't recall if he
Did you?
searched the truck.
Okay, you don't recall if he searched the truck at all? Do you remember, I mean, I would imagine he would have went before you, so I mean, do you remember you gave a reason why or why not he wouldn't?
I really, it was 6 years ago. I don't remember who.
Did you search the truck?
Yes.
Okay, what'd you find in it?
I would have to look at my report for everything. I mean, we found drug paraphernalia. We found some mask, some knives.
Okay, some masks, some knives, some drug paraphernalia.
And that's,
Pretty, was any of that taken into evidence?
yes.
Okay, good. And they ever, again, did it ever prove to have any evidentiary value?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so none of it actually. Did you guys do anything special with it? Did you? The search of the truck, how did you go about again, is there a procedure for it? Is there something that, a certain way you have to do it, anything like that?
Then just other than the same standard, writing the search warrant, having the state look at it, saying yay or nay, and then having a judge look at it and saying yes or no, signing it. And then there's procedural things where we got to record us reading the search warrant. Like in the case of a house, we'd read it to the occupants. In the case of an unoccupied truck, we read it to the unoccupied truck. And then paperwork that we have to give to like the owner of the truck, stuff like that, but nothing other than that.
Okay. Ms. Malone, now at this point, you're a Detective Malone, right?
Yes, sir.
Homicide detective, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you think it would have been prudent to take a vehicle that's been used in a homicide, to impound it?
Objection argumentative.
I'm asking for expertise. The homicide detective, I would assume they have.
Overrule the objection. If you have opinion on that question, you may render it.
The issue with the trunk was the time delay and us actually knowing where the truck was. And we did have our crime scene guy do, like you could do blood, check for blood on stuff with lights and glasses. And he didn't see anything that would have been overly impactful. So there didn't seem to be a reason to impound the truck.
Didn't you just say a second ago that he didn't look at the truck?
All right, I misspoke. I don't remember what he did, but now that as we're talking about it, I remember him looking at that type of stuff.
Blood and, what'd you say else?
Looking for if there was blood.
Okay, but he did do that, right?
I do believe so, yes.
And we'll go back from that, take a look at that.
Okay, I think, excuse me, Mr. Tucker, but I think that this is about as good a stopping point for.
I think so too, Your Honor. Thank you.
We're going to find. So
Section.
we're going to break for lunch, folks. Again, we thank you for your patience, your attentiveness during our morning session. We're going to resume at 1:30. So follow the usual cautionary instructions. Return at 1:30 and we'll pick up from where we left off.
Sounds like they're going to be taking a break here in Florida. We are about 6 minutes out from them resuming in Connecticut. So Well, let's switch back over to oh, what they're talking about the jury.
Do you anticipate that we're going to get to him today and get started with him, or do you think it'd be more prudent to start fresh with him on Tuesday? I'm just looking for some guidance from the court. Do you want me to leave him here waiting? It'll be 1:30. Mr. Tucker has more cross to do yet. We have recorrect.
Well, I guess it's kind of, Mr. Tucker's got to give us an idea of an estimate as to the length of his remaining cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's why I actually did say to the prosecution that, I thought that this witness was probably going to take up the rest of the day. I was honest with them about that when we came back from break.
Well, so I think you could probably release Mr. Johnson and just see him on Tuesday.
All right, sounds good, Judge. I'll make sure.
All right.
Okay. So let's see, this one's lagged here. Let me get this. Okay. Let's see. I will continue with the article on Wikipedia on Jennifer Dulos. And let's see. Jennifer Farber Dulos was born September 27, 1968, was born in New York City to Gloria Ortenberg and Hilliard Farber, a banker and philanthropist, respectively. She has an older sister, Melissa Irene Farber, Jennifer's maternal aunt and uncle, Elizabeth Claiborne, and Arthur Ortenberg founded the fashion company Liz Claiborne, Inc. Jennifer graduated from Brown University in 1990 and later earned a master's degree in writing from New York University Tisch School of the Arts. A stay-at-home mother, Jennifer made her living as a writer for Patch.com and also ran her own blog. Fotis Dulos, August 6, 1967 to January 30th, 2020, was born in Turkey and grew up in Athens, Greece, moving to the U.S. in 1986. He graduated from Brown University in 1989 and later earned an MBA in finance from the Columbia Business School. Fotis married Hilary Vanessa Aldama, also a Brown graduate, in Athens in June 2000. The marriage lasted 4 years and they were divorced on July 12, 2004. That year, Dulos founded the Four Group, Inc., a real estate development company specializing in luxury homes based in Connecticut. Dulos started emailing Farber, whom he had also met at Brown, while still with his first wife. They married in Manhattan just over a month after Dulos' divorce on August 28, 2004, and subsequently moved to Farmington, Connecticut. They had 5 children together, including 2 sets of twins. So I was right when I saw the bunk beds, and that they were very close in age. All named after Greek Orthodox saints. 3 sons, Petros, Theodore, and Constantine, and 2 daughters, Christiane and Cleopatra Noel. That's kind of a flamboyant name. In a blog post on March 12, 2012, Jennifer alluded to trouble in the marriage. I wish I were a strong person and that confrontation did not both scare and appall me. After the gradual breakdown of the marriage, in which Jennifer claimed Fotis was livingly and increasingly independent life, she filed for divorce on June 20th, 2017 at Superior Court in Stamford, In the same month, she started renting a house in New Canaan, about 70 miles away or southwest of Farmington, and moved there with her 5 children. In her divorce documents, Jennifer wrote, "I know that filing for divorce and filing this motion will enrage him. I know he will retaliate by trying to harm me in some way." She also stated that she believed he was having an affair with his colleague, Michelle Troconis, a native of Venezuela. Oh, she's not Argentinian. Jennifer also alleged that Fotis had threatened to kidnap her children if she did not agree to his terms in the divorce settlement, and that he bought a gun that year. Fotis denied making any threats and claimed he had bought the gun legally for home security. Well, that's maybe what he said officially. Both parents filed numerous motions claiming that the other was disparaging them. Well, that's probably true. But only one of them died, or disappeared, I should say. But both dead legally, at least. Despite Jennifer's requesting an emergency order of custody, the couple were given temporary joint custody of their children until the end of the divorce proceedings. When Jennifer again requested an emergency order of custody in early 2018, the judge found that Fotis had broken numerous court orders. In March 2018, Jennifer was awarded sole custody of the children, while both parents were to share joint legal custody. So she had physical custody. Okay. Fotis was granted supervised visitation and monitored phone calls. In February 2018, after Jennifer's father's death, Gloria Farber, Jennifer's mother, sued Fotis for unpaid loans. She claimed that he owed them $1.7 million loaned to him by his father-in-law, Hilliard Farber. Okay, disappearance. Jennifer was last seen around 8 a.m. on May 24th, 2019, when she dropped her children off at New Canaan Country School, and then at 8:05 a.m. on the neighbor's security camera returning home. The same day, she missed 2 doctor appointments that she had scheduled for 11 and 1 p.m. in New York City. Later that evening, around 7 p.m., 2 of her friends, including nanny Lauren Almeida, reported her missing after they failed to get in contact with her. Family and friends of Jennifer stated that it would be out of character for her to leave her home on her own without telling anyone. Almeida, who had arrived at the house at 11:30 a.m. that day, later told detectives she was surprised to see Jennifer's Range Rover in the garage, and because she had planned to take it to her doctor's appointments instead of her Chevrolet Suburban, which was missing. When detectives searched the house, they found blood spatter on the floor, door, and walls in the garage, as well as on the exterior of the Range Rover. Blood was also found in the kitchen. DNA test revealed most of the blood to be Jennifer's, apart from blood on the kitchen faucet, a mixture belonging to both her and her husband, Fotis. Police also found other evidence of Jennifer being the victim of a serious assault. Okay, so what was Fotis's blood doing on the tap in the kitchen when he didn't live there? Jennifer's Chevrolet Suburban had been captured on the neighbor's security camera, leaving her home around 10:25 a.m. in the morning. Fotis was believed to be the one driving the victim's vehicle, carrying the body of Jennifer and other items associated with the probable cleanup. That same evening, around 7:30 p.m., Fotis and Troconis were captured on video dumping garbage bags in 30 bins in Hartford. 30 bins, wow. The trash bags were found to contain various pieces of bloodied clothing as well as blood-stained cleaning items. Blood was determined to be that of Jennifer. Fotis's DNA was found on the inside of a glove in one of the trash bags and on one of the trash bags. The Suburban was later found on the side of the road near Waveney Park in New Canaan, just over 3 miles from her home. At the time Jennifer went missing, she and her husband were estranged and still engaged in a tumultuous divorce. They were also involved in the ongoing contentious child custody proceedings. Police searched numerous properties in and around Farmington in Fairfield County and near Fotis's home without success. Investigators believed he had arrived by bike to Jennifer's home due to tire marks found and other evidence. Fotis is believed to have been lying in wait for his estranged wife to return home, and he killed her in the garage when she returned from dropping their kids off at school. Helicopters were used to look for signs of Jennifer as well as canine units and divers. There has been no activity on her credit cards and no calls from her cell phone as of May 24th. On January 19th, 2021, Connecticut police visited property on Mountain Spring Road in Farmington, which was once owned by Fotis Real Estate Company, to follow up old leads. Several authorities could be seen behind the property digging up the yard. Police also brought in Bob Perry, a nationally renowned expert in finding unmarked graves, though he would not say what, if anything, had been discovered. Next day, police returned to Mountain Spring Road property with an excavator and a septic tank. Police briefly spoke with the media, but said they did not have any updates. Well, since they haven't found her body, I would say that was probably nothing discovered. Initial arrests. On June 1st, 2019, Fotis and Troconis were arrested in a hotel in Avon, Connecticut, and charged with tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. Not enough evidence existed at that time to warrant any more serious charges. The Dulos' 5 children, then aged 8 to 13, moved to New York City to live with Jennifer's mother, to whom a judge granted temporary custody. And they're still living there now, as I understand it. Fotis hired attorney Norm Pattis to represent him. In an interview prior to being hired by Fotis, Pattis appeared to convinced that Jennifer was dead. Fotis and Troconis had pleaded not guilty to the charges. They were again arrested for tampering with evidence and again pleaded not guilty in September 2019. Fotis appeared in court October 4th to seek dismissal of the charges against him. The judge said he would review the arguments by the defense and prosecution. In late October, it was reported that Troconis and her 10-year-old daughter had moved out of Fotis's $5 million home in Farmington. 2020 arrests. In January 7th, Fotis was arrested at his home in Connecticut by Connecticut State Police and charged with capital murder, and kidnapping in relation to Jennifer's disappearance. Troconis was also arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Fotis's friend and former attorney, Kent Douglas Mahwini, often misreported as Mahwini without an H, was also detained on January 7th and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Despite these arrests, Jennifer's body has yet to be found. Mahwini became estranged from his wife after being accused of spousal assault. He went to South Windsor police and told authorities that she feared Fotis and Mahwini were working together to kill her. After Jennifer's disappearance, a shallow grave was discovered in a secluded property that Mahwini owned, filled with 2 trash bags and a blue tarp. Authorities and a sniffer dog discovered the grave in August 2019, but no body was found in the grave, and said items were found to have been removed. It's not actually a grave if there is no body, is it? Jennifer's family issued a statement after the arrest. Although we are relieved that the wait for these charges is over, there is no sense of closure. Nothing can bring Jennifer back. We miss her every day and will forever mourn her loss. On January 8th, Fotis bond was set at $6 million. He was released the following day and was due to return to court on February 28th, 2020. In a statement issued May 2020, Troconis said it was a mistake to have trusted Fotis, but maintained she did not know what happened to Jennifer or her whereabouts. Troconis, out on bail, was next scheduled to appear in court on August 6th to face the charges. Mahoney was being held in lieu of $2 million bond, but the bond was reduced to $246,000, and he was released on October 19th, 2020. Fotis Dulos' self-homicide. While out on bail, Dulos failed to appear in court on his January 28th, 2020 for an emergency bond hearing. He was found unresponsive by state police at his home in Farlington, having been poisoned with carbon monoxide by running a vacuum cleaner hose from the exhaust pipe of his SUV into the interior of the car while it was parked in his garage. Initially, it was reported by some news outlets that Fotis had been found dead, but responders had performed CPR and restored a faint pulse. They transported him by ambulance to Yukon Medical Center in Farmington, and from there was airlifted to Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx to undergo hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Fotis's 5 children, whose ages range from 8 to 13, when their mother disappeared 8 months earlier, visited him at the medical center before he was taken off life support. This marked the first time they had seen their father since he was accused of murdering their mother. Fotis was pronounced dead at Jacobi Medical Center on January 30th, 2020. He was 52 years old. He left a note in his car which read, "I refuse to spend even an hour more in jail for something I had nothing to do with." Well, he wasn't in jail, was he? In the police report, it states Fotis' new girlfriend, Anna Curry, was at his home the morning of his self-homicide. They planned to drive to the courthouse in Stamford together, but Fotis said that they should drive separately. On the way to the courthouse, Curry received a call from Fotis asking where his client was. She told him they had been driving separately, but the lawyer informed him that Fotis' GPS tracker showed that he was still at home, at which point Curry realized that he must have done something to harm himself and asked Fotis to call 911. Okay, media. Dateline aired the episode Disappearance of Jennifer Dulos on 9th of September 2019. The follow-up episode entitled The Day Jennifer Disappeared aired 2 December 2022. The documentary Vanished in New Canaan, an ID mystery, which premiered on Investigation Discovery on June 1st, 2020, attempts to piece together the facts of Jennifer Dulos' disappearance. The documentary gives insight into how Jennifer and her estranged husband met at Brown University and started a family. A group of expert and witness dissected the events of the case. The case was covered in a 2021 Lifetime television film, Gone Mom, Jennifer Dulos story with Annabeth Gish as Jennifer Dulos and Warren Christie as Fotis Dulos. Jennifer's Law. In May 21st, a domestic violence bill called so-called Jennifer's Law received a near unanimous support in the Connecticut State Senate. Proposed law was named after Jennifer Dulos and another victim of domestic violence in Connecticut, Jennifer Magnano, who was murdered in 2007 by her husband, Scott Magnano, in Terryville, Connecticut. Scott Magnano committed self-homicide shortly after, or immediately after, killing his wife in front of the two of their three children on January 28, 2021. Ned Lamont signed the bill into law. And that takes care of the article on Wikipedia. So we are still waiting on the court. They are running late. Let's take a look back, and they are still on break in Florida. So let's take a quick look and see what is happening in YouTube land. Let's see, 14 hours ago, Common Sense True Crime posted, apparently Allie is still alive. Andrew lied. She is still on a vent, and that's all I know, but I'm not sure of that either. I have never in my entire 50 years of life seen anything like these people. Yeah. Just when you think it can't get any lower, it does. I don't believe any of them now. They are all scam artist liars, in my opinion. They need to get jobs and support themselves and their families. Get off your lazy high bleep and make your own money. I've had it. Let's see. Okay. Let's take a quick look. Come on. Okay, where did my tab go? Oh, well, here's another post that was 2 hours earlier from Common Sense True Crime where she says Allie passed away. So now that other one makes more sense about Andrew lying.
The gifts of the three wise men. Frankincense, myrrh.
Oh, we had a commercial over in waiting for the stream to resume. My computer needs to install some updates. So it's running a little slow, I think. Come on. Looks like we don't have any court hearings with any of our judges who have YouTube feeds. Nothing there. Let's look at my local news. Oh, we've got avalanches closing canyon. So my sister-in-law said she couldn't go to Logan if she wanted to. Interesting. Senator Mike Lee says he won't vote yes to fund the government until a border deal is in place. You wouldn't think that would be controversial, but Okay, nothing terribly interesting in local news. Let's try looking at national news. Prosecutors will seek death penalty for white supremacist who killed 10 at a Buffalo supermarket. I remember when that happened. Boy, looks like a kid. Peyton Gendron listens, says he is sentenced to life in prison without parole for domestic terrorism motivated by hate and 10 counts of first-degree murder in an Erie County. He's sentenced to life in prison. They said that they're seeking the death penalty, but that's confusing. Okay, let's read the article. Federal prosecutors will seek the death penalty against a white supremacist who killed 10 black people at a Buffalo supermarket, they said in a court filing Friday. Peyton Gendron is already serving a life sentence in prison with no chance of parole after he pleaded guilty to state charges of murder and hate-motivated domestic terrorism in the 2022 attack. New York does not have capital punishment, but the Justice Department had the option of seeking the death penalty in a separate federal hate crimes case. Gendron had promised to plead guilty in that case if prosecutors agreed not to seek the death penalty. In a notice announcing the decision, in a decision to seek the death penalty, Trini Ross, the U.S. Attorney for the Western New York, wrote that Gendron had selected the supermarket in order to maximize the number of black victims. The notice cited a range of factors. I think they mean a range of factors for the decision, including substantial planning leading to the shooting and the decision to target at least one victim who was particularly vulnerable due to old age and infirmity. Relatives of the victim expressed mixed views on whether they thought federal prosecutors should pursue the death penalty. After meetings with prosecutor hours before a Friday hearing in the case, one of the relatives, Mark Talley, shared his thoughts. I'm not necessarily disappointed with the decision. It would have satisfied me more knowing he had to spend the rest of his life in prison, being surrounded by the population of people he tried to kill, said Talley, whose 63-year-old mother, Geraldine Talley, was killed. I would prefer he spend the rest of his life in prison suffering every day, he added. Several other family members left without speaking. The Justice Department has made a federal death penalty cases a rarity since the election of President Joe Biden, a Democrat who opposes capital punishment. This is the first time that Attorney General Merrick Garland has authorized a new pursuit of the death penalty. Under his leadership, the Justice Department has permitted the continuation of 2 capital prosecutions and withdrawn from pursuing the death penalty in more than 24 cases. Garland instituted a moratorium on federal executions in 2021, pending a review of procedures. Although the moratorium does not prevent prosecutors from seeking death sentences, the Justice Department has done so sparingly. A successful it successfully sought the death penalty for an anti-Semitic gunman, I think they mean an anti-Semitic gunman, who murdered 11 people in a Pittsburgh synagogue, which had been authorized as a death penalty case before Garland became Attorney General. It also went ahead last year with an effort to get the death sentence against an Islamic extremist who killed 8 people in New York City bike path, though a lack of a unanimous jury meant that the prosecution resulted in a life sentence. The Justice Department has declined to pursue the death penalty for other mass killings. It passed on seeking the execution of a gunman who killed 23 people at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. On May 14th in 2022, Gendron attacked shoppers and workers with a semi-automatic rifle at a Tops Friendly Market in Buffalo after driving more than 200 miles from his home in rural Conklin, New York. He chose the business for its location in a predominantly black neighborhood and live-streamed the massacre from a camera attached to his tactical helmet. The dead, who ranged from 32 to 86, included 8 customers, a store security guard, and a church deacon who drove shoppers to and from the store with their groceries. 3 people were wounded but survived. The rifle Gendron fired was marked with racial slurs and the phrases including "the Great Replacement," a reference to a conspiracy theory that there's a plot to diminish the influence of white people. And that concludes that article. Man, they still aren't going. Well. Oh, thank you, MB. 2 p.m. So that will be about another 12 minutes. Thank you very much. I'll continue to look and see what we've got in the AP News website. Says New York City built a migrant tent camp on the remote former airfield, then winter arrived. Yeah. U.S. intensifies oversight of Boeing, will begin production audits after latest mishap for the plane maker. I would say that's probably a good idea. Let's see, we've got an international case here. It says Somali's president's son reportedly testifies in Turkey as he's accused of killing a motorcyclist. Istanbul. The son of Somalia's president testified in Istanbul court on Friday about the death of motorcyclist courier in the city, Turkish media reported. An arrest warrant had been issued for Mohammed Hassan Sheikh Mohamud after a diplomatic car he was allegedly driving hit Yunus Emre Gosser, 38, on a highway in Istanbul in November 30th. Gosser died in a hospital 6 days later, by which time Mohammed had left Turkey. Turkish Justice Minister Yilmaz Tunç said last month that he had discussed the case with his Somalian counterpart to arrange Mohammed's return. The private Demoran news agency reported that the arrest warrant and a travel ban were revoked after Mohamud gave a statement at the Caglayan courthouse. He was released by the court, the agency said. Mohamud offered a no plea, instead repeating the statement that he gave immediately after the crash, saying the courier was at fault. Yeah, the indictment prepared by the Istanbul Chief Public Prosecutor's Office called for the prison sentence of 2 to 6 years for causing the death by negligence. It was unclear when any future hearing would be held. The death had threatened to sour friendly relations between Turkey and Somalia. Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul and a prominent opposition politician, accused the government of being too weak to defend the rights of its own citizens. Turkey launched an investigation into officials who conducted the initial crash investigation and reportedly allowed Mohammed to go free. Somali's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud told the AP last month that his 40-year-old son, who is a doctor, did not flee Turkey, and said that he advised him to present himself to court. Turkey is a brotherly country, the president said. We respect the law and the justice and the judicial system. As a president of Somalia, I will never allow anybody to violate this country's judicial system. Turkey has built close ties with Somalia since 2011, when President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, then Prime Minister, visited the East African nation in a show of support as Somalis suffered from a severe drought. Turkey has provided humanitarian aid, built infrastructure, and opened a military base in Somalia where it has trained officers and police. The question I have is, he was driving a diplomatic vehicle. I'm surprised that he doesn't have diplomatic immunity. And that they're prosecuting him. Oh, 1 hour and 10 minutes? Oh boy. If that's the case, maybe we'll do a break and do a until 2 p.m. 2 p.m. If that's 2 p.m. East Coast, that would be ending at noon my time. So you're right. Okay. Sounds like maybe they didn't have somebody lined up for their post 15-minute break. So If that's the case, I'm thinking, well, let's do a quick look at see if there's anything with the treehouse trial. If not, maybe we'll take a break. Yeah, they're still on a break for a good half hour in Florida. So, okay, so let's go ahead and end this and come back in just over an hour, and I'll set up another stream, and we'll do a part 2. So, see you in just over an hour, and thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you soon.